We'll get started in a minute, now that I've turned on the mic. Okay, welcome to the regular board meeting of San Mateo County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, May the 7th. And now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a roll call.
Supervisor Pine.
Here.
Supervisor Groom.
Present.
Supervisor Slocum. Here. Supervisor Tissier. Here. President Horsley.
Here. And now it is time for public comment, and we have one speaker for public comment, Martin Fox.
Good morning, President Horsley, honorable members. Good morning, President Horsley, honorable members of the board. Thank you for your service to the county. Please have mercy on persons living with mental illness who lack the insight needed to seek treatment and their family members by voting to implement Laura's Law. Laura's Law is a positive outcome-producing procedure that creates a treatment compliance behavioral situation which is certified to be effective, efficient, and economical by the United States Department of Justice. The $2.1 million expansion of the San Mateo County Mobile Support Team, called Family Assertive Support Team, will perpetuate the suffering of persons living with mental illness who lack the insight needed to seek treatment by diverting attention and resources away from creating the positive outcomes that Laura's Law would provide. Laura's Law is a positive outcome-producing process that reflects the assumption of responsibility for public health and safety. Expanding the mobile support team is a responsibility avoidance device, just like the health system's failed $1.2 million Family Service Agency of San Francisco PrEP program. It is time to listen to the county manager's advice and do something new and reject the expensive health system's policies and procedures which perpetuate the illness and death of persons living with serious mental illness. Send those policies and procedures back to San Francisco, where they came from. Please have mercy on persons living with mental illness who lack the insight needed to seek treatment voluntarily. Vote to implement Laura's Law and demonstrate a commitment to obtaining positive outcomes and public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Now we have to set the agenda to approve or not approve the consent agenda items.
I'll move to set the agenda and approve the consent items as listed.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. The agenda is now set. Now, first, we have a presentation of a resolution honoring the Friends of Edgewood Park upon their 20th anniversary, and that's actually in my backyard. So it was formed in 1993. So this year, San Mateo County Parks, in partnership with the Preserve volunteer groups, will focus on improvements in Edgewood Park that will enhance the visitor experience and further support volunteer efforts, and they include installing new trail signs, refurbishing interpretive signs, installing new volunteer information and recruitment signs, improving major preserved trails, parking area enhancements, and the Bill and Jean Lane Education Center enhancements. The Parks Department is also dedicating resources to support the activities planned by the Friends of Edgewood Park, and both the Parks Department and the Sheriff's Department are going to assist in event traffic flow, parking, and event signage. And finally, the Parks Department's developed a calendar of volunteer workdays that will engage more community members in the preservation of Edgewood and potentially support growth among existing volunteer groups. The volunteer groups are incredibly important to the future of our parks. I have to say that there was a great article in the Almanac about invasive grasses and the work that the Friends of Edgewood are doing on their own. Personally, I hate pulling weeds, but so I can imagine that's not necessarily a love of labor, but what it does in terms of preserving and enhancing native flowers and plants is really very important to Edgewood Park. So let me introduce Bill Korbholz, who's the president of the Friends of Edgewood Park. Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Well, good morning, President Horsley and members of the board. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for honoring the organization, the Friends of Edgewood, and on behalf of the hundreds of members affiliates and volunteers associated with the Friends of Edgewood, and we have a good showing of them here. Could I ask them to stand up for a moment? Wow. Those of you who are here representing Friends of Edgewood. On behalf of all of them and the other volunteers, I'm happy to accept this recognition. I want to thank the county for its continuing support of parks and also for its continuing strong support of volunteerism. I also would like to recognize and thank the County Parks Department, Director Jim Porter, Superintendents Lockman and Scott Lombardi, who is here, the Rangers who help us at Edgewood so much, John Truen and Steve Kramer, and our volunteer coordinator, Carla Schoaf. It's because of this strong partnership that we have created between the Parks Department and the Friends of Edgewood that we have been able to achieve these accomplishments for the past 20 years. I also want to mention the San Mateo County Parks Foundation and its executive director, Julia Bott, who is here today as well, and thank them for giving us the Bill and Jean Lane Education Center. They did all the heavy lifting, of course, in raising the funding to build that center, which was opened 2 years ago. We've had tens of thousands of visitors since the building was opened, and it has really been the device that the Friends of Edgewood have been able to use to extend our reach to the public and offer even better interpretive programs and enhance the visitors' experience as they come to Edgewood Park. Also, Supervisor Horsley, you mentioned the weed management efforts that go on at Edgewood, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention California, the Santa Clara Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society. They are the folks who do all the weed management at Edgewood. The Friends of Edgewood are delighted to promote them, but they really get the credit for doing all the work, and they hold the permit for that. This year, the county parks and the Friends of Edgewood have dubbed the Year of Edgewood. It's the 20th anniversary, as you mentioned, of the founding of the Friends, and also the 20th anniversary of the designation by this board, your board, of Edgewood Park as a natural preserve. And we've had a lot of exciting celebratory events so far this year, and we have several more coming up. The one that I wanted to mention in particular and invite the entire board, county staff, and the general public in general is this coming Saturday, 1 to 4 p.m. at the Bill and Jean Lane Education Center. We're having a big birthday party. There'll be lots of fun festivities, family fun, food, and some fun skits, some puppet skits. There'll be butterfly origami. I didn't even know that butterflies knew how to do origami, but apparently they do. So we're all very excited about that, and thank you again for your recognition. I hope to see all of you this Saturday at the park.
Don't go, Bill. First,
Don't
I have,
go.
I have a resolution that I'm going to make a motion to approve this resolution for the Friends of Edgewood Natural Preserve. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let me present this to you, Bill. Thanks for your leadership.
Oh.
Look at all the paparazzi. Paparazzi is following you.
I still think they should stand. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Our next presentation is a resolution honoring the renovation and reopening of the HIP Housing Willow Road Affordable Housing Project. Supervisor Warren Slocum.
Thank you. So it gives me a great deal of pleasure this morning to just share with you a little bit about HIP's Housing's latest success story, which is truly a labor of love mixed in with a little bit of magic. And this project is in Bellhaven in Menlo Park, and it's, as the president said, the renovation of 12 units of affordable housing. The first housing, I think, in Menlo Park in some 25 years. In that renovation, there are some pretty unique aspects to the project. It's the first totally solar-powered building, I understand, for low-income folks. It has free Wi-Fi for all the tenants, which is pretty cool. It has a community room that can be used by members of the community. And of special interest to me, of course, being a veteran, is that 6 units, I believe, are dedicated to veterans, and 2 of those are for women veterans, which I think is very commendable and very unique. So we should recognize the funders on this project, and as you all know, these projects do take a little bit of magic to pull off, because it's a matter of timing and alignment of stars and so forth and so on. But special thanks to the County of San Mateo for their support, the City of Menlo Park, the City of Redwood City, and the Boston Private Bank and Trust. As Kate was telling me the other day, HIP serves some 3,000 people a year, and it's an amazing story, and their contributions are very much appreciated by this board and by the County of San Mateo. So let me introduce to you Kate Comfort, who is the Executive Director of HIP, who may or may not want to say a few words. Kate?
Well, thank you, Supervisor Slocum, for that wonderful introduction to the project. We are super proud of Willow Road. It is the first project that HIP Housing's been able to do in 6 years, and the first piece of affordable rental housing to go into Menlo Park in 25 years. And these things don't happen without a labor of love. It was a great partnership between the county, 2 cities, 2 corporate entities, 3 different nonprofits. And like I like to tell everybody, when you can bring all those parties together, you got a little magic in the middle. We have some wonderful tenants in there, lots of kids. We have a newborn baby. We actually have 5 households that are veteran households, and 1 that's still vacant that we're hoping to put another veteran in. But we're super excited. We have our big open houses tomorrow at noon. If anybody wants to come by and see, we're done with all the interior renovations. We're about 90% done with all the exteriors. But it's a great thing to celebrate, especially now when creating affordable housing is so difficult in the county. We're able to celebrate this and are hopeful that we can find collaborations and ways to make more affordable housing available in the future. But as you know, it's a lot of work, and this is a unique situation that we were able to bring this together. But thank you. I very much appreciate your recognition, and I know you're going to be out there tomorrow doing the ribbon cutting, so we're excited about that.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess the proper thing is to ask for a motion to adopt this resolution.
So you're making the motion?
Yes,
I'll second.
I can do that.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye. And now, Kate, I'll present you with the resolution, and the paparazzi is invited to come forward. Oh, wait, there's nobody here for me. They were all for you.
The what? Good job. Thank you, Supervisor Slocum. The next is a proclamation designating May 2013 as Asthma Awareness Month. Supervisor Carol Groom.
Thank you, President Horsley. This is Asthma Awareness Month, and sad to tell us that 18.4% of young people aged 0 to 17 live with asthma, and approximately 10.4% of our population adults live with asthma. Disparities exist among San Mateo County residents, making African Americans with asthma 2.8 times more likely than Caucasians and Hispanics, 2 times more likely than Caucasians to visit emergency rooms for asthma-related symptoms. We've made great efforts in our county to address this disparity, as well as reduce the number living with chronic conditions through work by the San Mateo County Asthma Coalition, the Tobacco Education Coalition, Family Health Services Asthma Management Program, and Environmental Health Housing Program. As they work diligently with community partners, like hospitals, schools, housing agencies, First Five, and the 4 Cs, to educate and train the community on how to keep housing, school, and child care facilities safe and healthy for our most vulnerable populations. So I'd like to thank the health system and partners for making asthma prevention a priority, and invite Dr. Dorothy Vera Weiss of Family Health Services and co-chair of the Asthma Coalition, as well as Karen Lacavoli from Breathe, California, to receive the proclamation and say a few words. And I'll make a motion that we accept this.
You have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Good morning, Board President Horsley, Supervisors Groom and Pine and Tissier and Slocum and county staff. Thank you very much for making this proclamation today to recognize Asthma Awareness Month. And today is actually World Asthma Day, so it's especially appropriate today. Asthma is a large and growing problem in our county. A lot is being done to address it. This month, as every month, physicians and nurses are working with patients individually to try to help them treat and prevent their asthma symptoms. And as every month, the staff from our Family Health Services asthma program are working with families to help to identify the triggers in their housing and in their environment that are contributing to the problem, and working with the environmental health staff on this problem as well. Later this month, the Asthma Coalition is sponsoring an educational program for school nurses to help them to work with the children that are in their settings every day. And also we're working with 4 Cs and have sponsored programs with them for child care staff. We'll also be providing education to the community at the Soul Stroll later this month. The Asthma Coalition has a pinwheel as its logo. As doctors, we sometimes ask children with asthma to take a deep breath and blow it out quickly into a pinwheel, and we look to see whether they're able to blow it out forcefully and strong and make the pinwheel spin quickly. And if they can, we know that they're doing really well. And so that's partly why we use it as the logo for our coalition. 7 or 8 years ago, I don't remember if any of you were here, perhaps Mr. Maltby was, we gave individual pinwheels to all the members of the Board of Supervisors as kind of a memento of the importance of asthma. And at least one of the supervisors showed that he really enjoyed the pinwheel as we were having our meeting. This year, recognizing that asthma requires a group effort, we're giving you one large pinwheel. Many of the factors that cause or exacerbate asthma are beyond the control of the individuals. And so the public health and the public policy efforts that you can provide are really important to controlling asthma and decreasing its impact. Karen Lacavoli is going to talk a little bit more about some of that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Lacavoli with Breathe, California. I'm also a member of the San Mateo County Asthma Coalition. I'm also the co-chair of the San Mateo County Tobacco Education Coalition. Through our efforts in the Asthma Coalition, we've made significant progress in raising awareness about the importance of asthma management in a number of settings, including the home, child care settings, and schools. Last year for World Asthma Day, we came here and presented 3 child care providers with an award for their work in implementing an asthma action plan and reducing asthma triggers at their site. We continue to offer, along with 4 Cs, one of our steady partners, our All About Asthma training program for child care providers. This training program provides them the skills and develops the confidence and abilities to provide healthy and asthma-friendly environments for children whose lungs are still growing and vulnerable to lung irritants and triggers. The tobacco education has also been working on reducing asthma triggers in the home, namely secondhand smoke. We've been advocating for secondhand smoke-free multi-unit housing policies for a number of years. Our first success, if you remember, was a number of years ago with Belmont. Most recently, last fall, you may not have heard about this, but the city of Daly City also adopted a smoke-free ordinance, which impacts over 7,000 units and protects the health of tens of thousands of residents, including children and others who are also vulnerable to secondhand smoke. Now, according to the U.S. Surgeon General, there is no safe level exposure to secondhand smoke, so these policies protect the public health overall. Generally, we find that property owners are supportive of these policies because it costs a lot of money to clean up after a smoker leaves a unit, changing out window treatments, carpeting, painting, etc. And because a majority of San Mateo residents don't smoke, there's a huge demand for smoke-free housing. I understand that the board, you will all be considering this issue in a study session later on this month. And I urge you to seriously consider this policy, and Breathe California will do whatever we can to be able to support your efforts this month during Asthma Awareness Month to adopt policies such as these that protect those with asthma. I want to say thank you for recognizing this day and this month. It's important in our public health efforts for our mission at Breathe California, and also just to protect the residents. And it's an ongoing effort, and we are making progress, and there's still work to be done. On behalf of this day and month, I just want to say breathe well, breathe deeply, and breathe often. Okay. So thank you very much.
Good idea. Thank you.
As you've probably noticed, this particular pinwheel is very festive in its colors, and I hope that you will take an attitude towards asthma, which is very appropriate, which is an optimistic attitude, because we know that making these changes makes a difference. In 1996, when Atlanta banned cars and trucks from most of the downtown area for the Olympics, they had a significant decrease in asthma hospitalization and expenses. And so we know that that policies can make a difference, and I thank you very much. Supervisor Horsley, I'm going to bring this up for you to share with the whole board, and thank you again.
Thank you. I promise not to play with it, to distract the board.
Promises, promises.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I present it to my colleagues here?
I think that we need to get a picture of you fighting, or sharing it, I shouldn't say.
Fighting over it. Fighting.
Blow one.
Perfect.
Okay, you keep it. Thank you. Next presentation is a proclamation designating May 2013 as CalFresh Awareness Month, and that is okay. Thank you. In any case, we are hoping to increase the awareness and access participation in CalFresh. The CalFresh program, which was formerly known as food stamps, is a really great help to an increasing number of people in San Mateo County. And in 2009, there were 16,085 people participating. By 2012, there were 28,103 local folks benefiting from the program. But there are still residents who are unaware that they could be eligible for this nutritional assistance, and our Human Services Agency is reaching out this month in many ways to spread the word about CalFresh. And it said for every dollar spent on CalFresh, $1.79 is returned to the local economy. So it's my pleasure to introduce this proclamation and ask for, I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation declaring May CalFresh Awareness Month, and I'll ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'm going to present the proclamation right after Beverly Beasley Johnson and Carrie Lobel make a presentation.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the board, Mr. Maltby, Mr. Holland, and Mr. Byers. It's our pleasure today to join the board as we declare the month of May, in particular, as CalFresh Awareness Month. Our goal is to increase awareness, access, and participation in the CalFresh program. Through your support, The county has built a strong network of services available to our working families and our most vulnerable populations. Even with our strong network of food resources, every day there are families and children who in our community who are food insecure. CalFresh is one of our biggest tools to fight hunger in the county, and while we've seen an increase in our CalFresh caseloads over the past years, we know that there are residents who are still eligible for the program but have not applied for this important benefit. To help bring awareness, HSA is engaged in the following outreach activities. Yesterday, we held a follow-up meeting with many of our community-based organizations to discuss food insecurity and CalFresh outreach. We have launched a new CalFresh Awareness Month flyer, and Carrie will show you the flyer, with our partners, and that flyer will be posted throughout all of our county and our regional offices. Our staff is promoting CalFresh in the Chinese media and will be appearing on Chinese radio to share CalFresh information with the Chinese community. And we're setting up CalFresh outreach booths at various community events. And then we expect a very large effort at this year's county fair, where in the HSA booth, we will actually be providing outreach and enrollment information and actually taking applications for the CalFresh program. Every year, we know that we get hundreds and hundreds of residents who stop by the HSA booth at the fair. So that's been a great tradition. We're also continuing our work with Code for America Fellows, increasing awareness of available food resources in the county, and they're working on their application right now. We saw a mock prototype just a couple of weeks ago of one of the applications that they prepared that will provide information to our residents about access to food. Our staff will be prepared to screen the new clients and increase additional CalFresh participation, and has made getting people quickly enrolled in the program a priority for the agency. I'm here today joined by Carrie LaBelle, Executive Director from Puente de la Costa Sur, who will talk about CalFresh and how important that's been to her community. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President, members. Nice to see you. When Director Johnson first came to Pescadero, one of the first months of her tenure, she had trouble believing that back then there was only one family in the entire South Coast enrolled in the CalFresh, then Food Stamps program. Since 2008, that number of enrollments has increased by 5 times, largely because of her belief that it was important to put a benefits analyst in organizations like Puente to be able to build relationships with the community, enroll people in the program, and ensure that they stayed in the program. CalFresh Awareness Month is incredibly important, as it is every day of the year, because so many people hold myths about CalFresh affecting their immigration status, affecting how they're able to function in the world. And that's combined with a lack of supermarkets and grocery stores that will actually accept the benefit. For example, in Pescadero, there's no store that will accept CalFresh. The only source of redeeming those dollars is at the Pescadero Grown Farmers Market. It took us 3 years in La Honda to get one store there to accept the benefit. And so I think in addition to enrollment, we have to focus as a county on utilization because many employers still are under the impression that this is a difficult, painful program for which to apply and participate. And really, anybody can apply and anyone can participate. The federal government has done, I think, a really great job in making that accessible. One of the key places that low-income shoppers can use their benefits are in the county's 26 certified farmers markets. At this point, a little over half accept CalFresh benefits, largely because these small markets have difficulty creating the staffing and the structure to be able to put CalFresh benefits into place. A little less than half of those markets, like ours, actually match CalFresh dollars, dollar for dollar, up to $10. That means that a $10 CalFresh purchase at a farmer's market becomes $20. And I think this is a really important way not only to ensure that people use their benefits, but also they use them on healthy foods. This is a huge economic security issue. And I'd like to just recognize the director, Jaslyn Yu, and Linda Holman for all their work and effort, and the staff that do so much every day. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. And thank both you, Carrie, and Beverly Beasley Johnson. The great job you've done. And let me present this proclamation to both of you. Well, that's really impressive work to be almost double the number of recipients. And I know this is a lot of poverty on the South Coast, so I appreciate what both the director at HSA has done as well as Carrie LaBelle. Next is an update on the San Mateo County reusable bag ordinance. Supervisors Carol Groom and Adrian Tessier.
Carol's going to go ahead.
Thank you, President Horsley. And Adrian and I are delighted to be able to tell our county today that since it's only been 7 months since we certified the EIR, there's 24 cities in 2 counties to adopt ordinances banning bags from the retail stores. 12 cities and 1 city in Santa Clara County have adopted our model ordinance. And we're just delighted to be able to see the change that's taking place now in our grocery stores, in our markets, in our bookstores, and in our shopping malls, that plastic bags are going away. So you want to add something to that?
I do. You know, I think for some, you know, I hear a few grumblings here and there, but just sort of as recycling took place, and it took a little while for people to get on board, I think what you're finding slowly but surely, you have, I think, up to 75% of people have been utilizing, bringing their own bags and are getting into the swing of it. And I think soon it'll become second nature, and we won't even give another thought about plastic bags. Sort of like the styrofoam. I think once people change their behavior, it just becomes automatic. And I think, you know, but a year from now, when we report out again, I think what you're going to find is people just do it because that's what we do now. So I really do have to commend not only our board, but the cities that have jumped on board, the other counties around the Bay, the region, the state that have taken this on. It would have been nice had the state done it in a broader sense so that we could have all been in sync together doing the same exact thing. And I think over time, like anything, I think the locals have a tendency to drive things up rather than from the top down. And I think over time you're going to see every city and every county in the state utilizing the plastic ban ordinances, and I really look forward to that. So I'm delighted. I don't know if Dean Peterson was going to say a few words.
I was going to introduce Dean Peterson, who he and his Environmental Services Department did the really work so diligently to get the environmental impact report done, worked with Santa Clara County and worked with every city. And I think he attended probably more city council meetings in several month period. But Dean, on behalf of this board, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Not even wearing your bag costume.
I was going to wear the bag monster costume today, but security didn't let me come through, so we couldn't do that. You'll have to live vicariously through our Facebook page.
Okay.
So I do have a couple of things to mention. As an engineer, I like numbers, and I'm going to add on to your numbers, Carol. So it was September 27th, 2011 is when the board held the first workshop on this subject and gave direction to me and my staff to go out and make this so. And since then, we've had 24 cities that did decide to partner with us on the EIR, 6 of those in Santa Clara County, so this truly is a regional approach, and I commend the board for taking that approach. We've attended well over 100 public meetings and hearings at cities with homeowners associations, with business associations, so we've been very active in that. My staff has performed hundreds of outreach events, partnership with each city. Countless number of city employees, obviously, we couldn't have done this without the city supports, as you mentioned. Could not have done this without this great support of the planning department within the county. We have to remember those. And of course, county council. I believe I've used at least 3 of your lawyers on this, and they've been incredibly helpful. So thank you, John, for providing those resources to us. We are, in addition to those outreach events, we've done since Earth Day, 28 bag giveaways outside of retail establishments. They've invited us to their doors, although sometimes we found them, if they've been in violation, we've decided instead of going and enforcing, we'd go out there and give reusable bags to their customers, and killing them with kindness is usually a good way to do it. Also on the Health Systems Facebook page, every Friday they do a free bag Friday. And if you get on and make a comment, you get a free bag delivered to you. This effort has actually allowed, and the San Mateo County Health System is now the #1 health department in California for followers on Facebook. We're only, local. We're second to CDPH, but we're going to catch them fairly quickly. We've distributed nearly 16,000 free reusable bags throughout San Mateo County, and there are more will continue. We're continuing ordering bags, and we're continuing to look for events to hand those out. And of course, we've done mailings to every retailer in San Mateo County. And the outcome, well, as you know, April 22nd, most of the cities did adopt with us and went down the path. And so as a result, we're seeing every day nearly 1 million plastic bags are not being put into people's hands that may make their way into the trash or into the bay or into the storm drain. That is just since April 22nd in those 3 short weeks. That's 15.5 million single-use plastic bags that have not been distributed. That number, once all the cities come on board, will soar to, on a daily basis, over 1.5 million bags per day will not be distributed. So this is a huge impact. We will see an impact for generations to come. And so I'd like to thank the board on that. So that's my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I just want to add my thanks to Dean for all his hard work, because, you know, someone always ends up doing the heavy lifting, and you really have done that. And I have to give credit. You went to all those public hearings. I think when they hear from you from environmental health, it makes a huge impact on people's decision-making process. So thank you for all that time and effort.
I'd also like to introduce now David Lewis, who's the Executive Director of Save the Bay.
Thank you and good morning, members of the board. I am David Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of Save the Bay, and I'm here today on behalf of our 40,000 members and supporters throughout the region, our board of directors, and our staff, especially our Clean Bay Project Director, Allison Chan. We're here to actually honor you and present you with a commendation for the county's leadership on this issue, and especially for the Department of Environmental Health leadership on this issue. When Save the Bay started working on this issue of trying to get plastic bags out of our bay and out of our environment a few years ago, I don't think we could have dreamed the impact that we would have had. But as your leadership is going into force in the way that Dean described and Supervisor Groom and Tissier described, by the end of this year, more than 3/4 of the people living in the Bay Area will be living someplace where plastic bags are not given away for free and ending up in the environment. And that's just in the span of 3 years. So we're very pleased to present you with a Clean Bay Award from Save the Bay for that leadership. Encouraging behavior change sometimes requires government to take action and create incentives and disincentives, right? And I think one of the things that you can look forward to, in addition to the daily impact that Dean is describing, just for example, in San Jose, where their plastic bag ordinance went into effect a year ago, they're already seeing the impact in the environment. Bag litter in creeks is down 69% in San Jose, just 1 year after their ordinance went into effect, and down 89% in the storm drain system, which of course, this is going to help you and your cities comply with the stormwater permit limits on trash that are now in effect. So really, we want to thank Dean and all of you for your leadership, and we look forward to working with you on other issues. I'll just add that as a native of the peninsula with deep family roots here and family still living in the county, I'm particularly proud at the way that you have exercised this leadership for your cities to make it easier for them to take this step and to cross the border into Santa Clara County and maybe show the way for other counties in the Bay Area to do this. So thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments, Mr. Lewis, and thank you Supervisor Groom and Tessier for the work that you did on this. It's
And I'd love to present this to.
I thought you should go get it. You and Adrian should get it.
Thank you again. Yes.
If I may add a comment.
Go ahead.
Just two quick comments. First, I was amused recently. I was in a store, and one of the customers was wheeling around their suitcase. That was how they were loading up their products. So there is a little bit of learning curve here, but I thought it was pretty creative. And I just want to add my thanks to my colleagues and Supervisor Tissier and Groom and Mr. Peterson. This has been a really impressive model for how the county can show leadership on regional issues, and hopefully we can use the model in other areas in the future.
Good. Okay, moving on. This item number 6 is the adoption of a resolution of a necessity determining that the public interest and necessity require acquisition of real property located in Burlingame for the interchange of 101 at Broadway project and directing the filing of eminent domain proceedings. Mr. Byers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, good morning. The California Department of Transportation, in cooperation with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority and the City of Burlingame, proposed to reconfigure the U.S. Highway 101 Broadway interchange in Burlingame. This project is known as the U.S. 101 Broadway Interchange Reconstruction Project. The details of this $75.2 million project will be presented by the San Mateo County Transportation staff in a brief presentation shortly. I'm just going to sort of set the stage for you. While the Transportation Authority is responsible for acquiring the property for the project, the legislature has not given that agency the power of eminent domain. So that is where the county comes in. And in fact, on December 11th, 2012, you may recall that by action of this Board of Supervisors, the county entered into a cooperation agreement with the Transportation Authority, wherein the county agrees to act as the condemning agency and really the vehicle for the eminent domain procedure. And as an aside, the county has agreed to this arrangement in the past. I believe the last time was approximately 2002, to my understanding. So this is not a new arrangement. In essence, while the county is the condemning agency, again, we're technically the condemning agency, the Transportation Authority staff acts as staff for this county condemnation. Once condemned, the county then will transfer the acquired properties to the Transportation Authority so that they can, of course, begin their reconstruction project. Taking property by eminent domain involves a very specific statutory procedure. It's all in state statute, the procedure. It's very, very detailed, very specific, and it's very tiered, a very stepped procedure. The procedure is located in the Code of Civil Procedure, and there are several, again, statutory steps an agency must take prior to actually filing an eminent domain lawsuit in Superior Court. The pre-litigation steps that must be taken include, number one, obtaining an appraisal. Okay, that's the first thing you got to obtain an appraisal. Number two, presenting a formal offer to the owner or owners, in this case it's owners. Number three, providing notice to the property owners of the right to a public hearing prior to the county adopting a resolution of necessity. Number four, holding a public hearing on the resolutions of public necessity. And then number five, actually adopting a resolution of necessity or resolutions of necessity with certain required findings that are set out in statute. Steps number 1 to 3 have been accomplished in this case. Really the purpose of today's meeting, as you know, is to complete steps 4 and 5. And that is to provide a public hearing opportunity for the owners of the resolutions of necessity, and then if the board agrees, for the board to actually adopt the actual resolutions of necessity. By adopting the resolutions of necessity, the board is conclusively establishing the public purpose and necessity for the taking of the properties. And I would just note that the fair market compensation is really not a topic for today's meeting. This is just about the resolutions of necessity. It's the public purpose, again, which is a condition precedent to then filing a lawsuit and establishing fair market compensation. In adopting the resolutions of necessity, the board must make the following determinations. These determinations are found on page 2 of the board memorandum. They are, number one, that the public interest and necessity require the project be undertaken. Number two, the project is planned and located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury. Number three, the acquisition of the property is necessary for the project. And four, that an offer has been made to the owners. Now, there are, as noted in the board memorandum, there are 15 parcels required for this project. To date, as I understand it, to date, the owners of 8 parcels have signed purchase and sale agreements conveying their property interests to the Transportation Authority, so those matters are settled. That leaves 7 parcels. So before you today are 7 resolutions of necessity, all of which would need a 4/5 vote by the board to be adopted. And I will note, though, and I'm sure Transportation Authority staff will touch upon this, that the Transportation Authority continues to use its best efforts to reach negotiated settlements with the remaining 7 parcel owners. So that is an ongoing activity, and I'm sure they're going to address that. So my recommendation is that you open the public hearing. Listen to a brief presentation about the project by the Transportation Authority. Then take any public comment that may be that may be here today. Then close the public hearing, and then vote on the 7 resolutions of necessity before you today. If you were to adopt the resolutions as submitted to you, you will be making the required determinations or findings, which are actually embedded in the resolutions. So those findings are embedded in the resolutions. Now, one quick note. I was told just prior to this meeting by the Transportation Authority staff that for one of the 7 resolutions before you, there is a slight modification. So there's a substitute resolution for one of the 7. And this particular resolution is for APN 026-142-020, otherwise known as the vacant property Bayshore Highway, which is the Waddell and Bramble property. There are several representatives from the Transportation Authority who are here today to make a short presentation and answer any questions you may have. After you open the public hearing, I understand that Jim McKim, the project manager for the Transportation Authority, will make a brief presentation, and I'm sure Jim's team will address the specific change made in that one substitute resolution involving the vacant property for your consideration. So they'll address that specific change. So that concludes my report.
Okay, so we will open the public hearing, and would Trent?
I had a question
Yes,
too.
questions?
Just a quick question, John. Is there any relocation requirement for the businesses that would be?
Yes, and I think Transportation Authority staff is going to address that issue as well.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Pine?
My question for Mr. Byers. You mentioned in the beginning that the Transportation Authority does not have the legal authority to proceed with this eminent domain procedure. Do you think they should have that? Do you think that is a shortcoming in legislation?
That's an interesting question. I might have the attorney for the Transportation Authority address that specific question.
Because again, we're not the drivers of the negotiations or otherwise on point here. But,
True.
But again, they don't have the authority, so they have to look to us to assist them.
That's true. And this is not I guess a model that is that unusual. I mean, there's some case law which specifically allows a county, for example, to condemn on behalf of another agency if it's for the public good and the public good is established. And so we are sort of the de facto condemner, if you will. But the case law is pretty clear that this arrangement is sort of anticipated. But whether the law should be modified to specifically include that agency as a condemning agency, it's probably a question you might direct to the transportation attorneys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, at this time, I'm going to ask the Transportation Authority staff to come up and make your presentation.
Good morning, President Horsley and members of the board. I'm Jim McKim, Project Manager for the Transportation Authority for the Broadway Interchange Project. So I'm going to give just a quick overview of the project. The slide here is the existing configuration of the Broadway interchange in Burlingame. And this is the oldest interchange on Highway 101 in San Mateo County. It was constructed in 1949. As anyone who's driven through there knows, it requires very circuitous, non-standard movements to get from one side of 101 to the other. And that really contributes to poor performance and traffic congestion. So this is the new configuration that we will achieve when the project is constructed. The reconstructed interchange will improve traffic circulation, accommodate future traffic growth, and improve the bike and pedestrian access across 101. The new interchange, the alignment had to be moved to the north, and with many impacts to the frontage roads due to grade changes and widening of the frontage roads. So that leads to, to the impacts to property on both sides of the freeway. The project schedule, we hope to be under construction in spring of 2014. And construction should be complete in 2017. So now I'm going to introduce Brian Fitzpatrick. He's the real estate manager for the Transportation Authority, and he's going to take it from here.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the Board of Supervisors. Brian Fitzpatrick, real estate. I'm the manager of the real estate department for SamTrans, for the San Mateo County Transportation Authority, and for the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board. I'm going to briefly talk to you about 3 or 4 things here today. First of all, I want to talk to you a little bit about project schedule. Secondly, I want to talk to you about how this process relates to that schedule as well as to the negotiations. Then I'm briefly going to show you the parcels that we're looking to address today. And then finally, I'm going to introduce Mike McNaughton, who is our legal counsel, who will address the issues that Mr. Byers had referred to. So first of all, in terms of project schedule, this project is scheduled to be bid and built by a private contractor in May 2014. In order to do that, the agency needs to have constructive control of the properties before we're allowed to ask a contractor to bid on the property. That's state law. Because this project is on the Caltrans system, we follow what's called a right-of-way certification procedure that's set by Caltrans. Caltrans is our project partner. They're also our oversight agency, so we follow the laws that they set. Now, as Mr. Byers had somewhat alluded to, there's a very set process in condemnation. The first step in that is to do what we're doing today, where the governing board adopts a resolution of necessity. And resolution of necessity talks about the need of the project and the need for the parcels to be acquired in order to forward that project. We don't talk about compensation. But what this does is one very positive thing, is it allows the public agency to go to court, and what we do is we ask the court for what's called an order of possession. The order of possession gives the agency constructive control of the properties needed for the project, and it bifurcates the issue of the property value. So that allows us the project to move forward without somebody having undue leverage over the project by saying, I won't give my property to you unless you give me, a large amount of money. It separates that and allows negotiations for the cost to move ahead separately. If it turns out that we're unable to come to a reasonable negotiated settlement, the property owner does have the right to have the fair market value of their property adjudicated in the court of law. So that gives them the rights to move forward. So what we're doing is we're bifurcating that process. I also want to let you know that out of the 15 total properties, as Mr. Byers has referenced, we've settled with 8. Out of the 7 remaining, I am extremely confident that we are going to resolve the majority of the remaining ones without need to have a third party come in and settle on value. If that needs to happen, that's the property owner's right, and that will happen, but we're confident we can do it. In terms of Supervisor Tissier's question, the state of California, as well as the federal government, follow what's called the Federal Uniform Relocation Act. That provides for certain benefits to both property owners and tenants. And there are 2 tenants in the properties that you are discussing today. There are, I believe, 8 other tenants in the properties that we've already purchased. Caltrans is taking the lead on assuring that those tenants both move to accommodate the project, but more importantly, are given all the benefits that they get under the Uniform Relocation Act, which includes moving assistance and a variety of other things. So that being said, one of the things that I'd like to point out on this project, Mr. McKim had mentioned that we're going to be reconfiguring the interchange. The main thing in my part of the world that this impacts is the frontage road. If you look up on this, and I believe that the laser doesn't work here, so I'm going to try to paint a picture with less than 1,000 words here. Airport Boulevard, if you'll notice, comes in. Airport Boulevard is being shifted north. The frontage road, which is called the Bayshore Highway on there, but that is the frontage road. That's the road that Max's Opera Cafe is on, the Holiday Inn is on. At the very south end, that's where your Crown Plaza is. That road is being shifted slightly, but more importantly, the grade of that road is going to be higher in the after condition. So what that means is that about the intersection of Airport Boulevard and Bayshore Highway on this map, we're going to be about 10 feet higher than we are. And then it's going to come down to grade about 3 or 4 properties down. So what that meant is while you look at these acquisition areas, besides the 2 who are buying the full properties, there are a lot of very small acquisition areas. But the trick on all these properties has been we've needed to work with the property owners to ensure that while we are working on that road that's access to their business, that we minimize the impacts to their business. So that's what all these discussions have been about. Less about money, more about impact. And we certainly know that a property owner knows more than we do about how the best way to access their property has been. So we've worked with them. Just to give you an example, you may be familiar with Max's Opera Cafe, which is smack dab in the middle here. We actually looked at them and a couple other properties as maybe being the trickiest ones. We were able to achieve solutions with them simply by working with them and ensuring that we construct this in a way that we minimize the impacts to their business. So let's now look at, let's see here. Oh, look at that works. Okay. If you look at the map that's before you now, you look at Airport Boulevard and Bayshore Highway. We're now going to imagine Airport Boulevard shifted dramatically to the north, which is going to come through that Union 76 parcel, and Bayshore Highway rising. So at that corner of Airport and Bayshore, it's about 10 feet high. So on that property, not only are we taking some property or acquiring, I prefer to use some property on Airport Boulevard, we're going to be raising the grade, making that site have very constricted access. The property next to it, which is the property that Mr. Byers referred to as the vacant property, also is going to have acquisitions of some things for the road and utilities in the front, but it's going to be dramatically impacted, its access will be. Getting to the next property, the ECC building, the road comes to grade right about halfway through that building. So the access being at the north end, we won't be impacting that. We're simply asking for temporary rights there to help in the construction of the road. If you look up on the top, you can barely see it, but it says Fox Investments. Right there, we are acquiring all of 14 square feet from the property owner. And we're also acquiring some temporary rights in order to reconfigure that road. Down on the other side, 99 Old Bayshore, we are going to be impacting 7 parking spots as that frontage road shifts into the red area you see there, but we will be, into the blue area. The red area is a temporary area. The blue area is a very small acquisition along the frontage. We're going to be acquiring 7 spots, which will temporarily relocate during construction, and recreating 8 in the after condition. And then finally, this site is on the other side of the interchange. This is at Broadway, Rollins Road. This is where the off-ramp comes out as you're going southbound. In this area, we're constructing a sound wall along the back of the property, and we're also going to be constructing drainage so that we keep the existing drainage patterns as they are. And we're buying a temporary construction easement and a drainage easement in order to do those things. So that addresses the property acquisitions. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, I'm going to call up Mike McNaughton, our attorney.
Any questions? No. Okay. Mike?
Good morning. I'm Michael McNaughton. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hanson and Bridget, and I'm an eminent domain attorney who's been assisted in connection with these condemnation actions. Our office prepared the resolutions that are before you. I did want to address and explain the reason for a replacement resolution on one of the properties. Under eminent domain law, a public entity is entitled and authorized to take property for a public purpose, necessary for a public purpose. Under the statutes, if a public agency takes part of a larger parcel of property for a public purpose, but that leaves what's called a remnant property, which is, as a practical matter, unmarketable, then the statutes also allow and authorize the public entity to take the remnant as well as the larger parcel. There's a technical requirement within the code that says if that's the case, then the resolution needs to refer to that statute specifically, and the statute is Code of Civil Procedure 1240.410. This affects one of the parcels, what's referred to as the vacant land parcel. In connection with that the resolution seeks to acquire part of the parcel that will be used as part of this public project. It would leave the rest of the larger parcel as an uneconomic, unmarketable remnant for practical purposes, and therefore we're asking that all the property be acquired. And having done so, the resolution itself needs to specifically refer to it. The prior draft refer to the statute. The prior draft that you had before you didn't have the statute reference. The new draft does, so it's just to meet that technical requirement. I know that, well, if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? No questions. Let's have a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, I did open it, yes.
Is there no public, no pink slips for public comment?
There were no pink slips for public. Oh, there was? Oh, well, then I didn't realize there's no pink slip. Would you come up forward then and? I'm going to ask you to fill out a pink slip afterwards.
Good morning. We represent about 7 acres. The attorney mentioned Fox Investments.
Could you first identify yourself, please?
I am Orhan Tolu, the general managing partner of Fox Investments property. And we'd like to have, before the board decide this, to get a possibly continuous if we could, because I don't believe that we got the whole information properly. And there are certain other effects. It's affecting driveway rights, ingress and egress of all the other 100 tenants in the property. So we request the board to have continuous on this subject.
Okay, and the other person who wishes to speak?
No. Yes, Omer Tamturk. I'm one of the managing partners for Fox Investments. How are you? We've been in communications with the transit for several months right now. And I brought to their attention that he mentioned only a 14 square feet of area on 1288 Bayshore is being affected, or they want to just buy it out. But they didn't actually clearly explain how the red line will work on our rest of our property, which is right on Bayshore Highway, which goes from 1288 to 1338 Bayshore Highway, all the way to Hyatt Regency. Again, as Orhan mentioned, we need to have some kind of a continuous and explanation on this and get a clear idea how it's going to work out.
Okay. Are there any other public speakers on this item? Okay. Questions?
Well, I was just, it was a little hard to understand what the issue they're raising, but perhaps someone from the TA could respond. I assume these issues can be discussed even if we take action today. But again, it was very hard to understand even what the issue is.
It is. I agree.
I don't know if the TA has any.
Let me ask Brian to come up and speak. Could you gentlemen sit down, please, and then have Brian come up and answer some of those questions?
Thank you, President Horsley, members of the Board of Supervisors. The issue that he is bringing up relates to there being a difference in where the public right-of-way is located and where the current back of sidewalk is located. So in a typical situation, one would assume, let's say one goes out in front of your house. Typically, you'd assume that the public right-of-way would extend to the back of sidewalk in front of your house, and then from there would be your property. It turns out that on this property, the public sidewalk was actually built inside the public right-of-way. So again, using your house analogy, you'd go to the back of sidewalk, there would be a few more feet of the public's ownership, and then your property starts. We have had the maps that we put together are put together by TA's consultant surveyor who goes out and collects all the public records and surveys this information and puts it together. Then they're reviewed by TA staff, and then finally they're approved by State of California Caltrans right-of-way surveying division. So these maps are reviewed by 3 levels of entities. And it turns out that the property at the back of sidewalk is not the edge of the public right-of-way. The public right-of-way extends into what might be perceived as the property of Fox Investments. Our agency has gone out and we have surveyed the site. We've put 6 or 7 nails. If you're ever familiar with the survey process, you put a little nail with a little disc around it. These nails have been put in 6 or 7 different positions along the Fox property. We've met with them on site and walked through where that is. We've then offered them an opportunity to bring a surveyor to the table who we would be glad to meet with that could show otherwise. That offer was never taken up. We did receive some information from a title company that we worked with, and everybody agreed that the legal descriptions that the title company brought us were the same as the legal descriptions that they're working from. So this is a situation where they just have a perception that they own more property than they do. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and we have tried to bring the information to the table to work with the property owners, and we've not really had any feedback from them.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Fitzpatrick? No? Yeah. And I know that we have one other, it turns out we have one other speaker. Is that on that same item? Madam Clerk? Okay, we have, Mr. McNaughton, yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald's comments, so that there's be clear, as I understand the speaker's comments, and as Mr. Fitzpatrick was explaining, the dispute deals with a property line description and a dispute whether or not the public right-of-way extends onto the owner's property or it does not. For purposes of today, though, the resolution of necessity that you're going to be asked to vote on does not address that issue or is not affected by that. There's the 14 square foot of property that the speaker referred to that's no one disagrees is part of the owner's property. The resolution only seeks authority to condemn that 14 square feet property. So that's that's all that the resolution is. So this issue is sort of
It's subject to negotiations, in essence.
subject to negotiations, which will continue as will the negotiations with all the owners after this board acts.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. McNaughton. There's what? You have a question? Any questions? Okay, there's one other speaker, Louis Viscardo, and Jennifer Witt. Oh, it doesn't indicate what the agenda. Oh, it's just you're in a different. What process are you wanting to speak on? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. So I guess I mumbled that we opened the public hearing and we
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second? Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Do we now have to individually adopt all the resolutions, or can we do it en masse?
You can do it in mass. You can, if you look at the board memo, I think you could use that as your guide. The recommendation is to adopt resolutions of necessity, determining that the public interest and necessity require acquisition of real property located in Burlingame for the Interchange 101 at Broadway project, and directing the filing of eminent domain proceedings. So you can make a motion to adopt all the resolutions before you. Although, and if you're so inclined to do that, there is the one change that we had identified before. So, and let me just identify that change. The one, again, the resolutions are all in your board packet before you, with one change, and that is a modification to a resolution involving the vacant property Bayshore Highway, APN 026-142020. And the change specifically would be to page 3, the second paragraph, numbered 3. Instead of before, in the packet, what it reads is, the interests in property described in this resolution are necessary for the proposed projects. Instead, I think what we're proposing is an amendment just to that paragraph. So instead, the resolution, again, page 3, number 3, second paragraph would read, the interest in property described in this resolution are necessary for the proposed project or constitute a remnant, which the county is authorized to acquire pursuant to Code of Civil Procedure, section 1240.410. So again, you could adopt all 7 resolutions with that one amended change, if you're so inclined.
Okay, the pleasure of the board.
I will move the 7 resolutions, including the one with the change on page 3, second paragraph.
Is there a second?
Second. I would also like to disclose that I serve on the Transportation Authority.
I should disclose the same issue that I also am on the Transportation Authority. We'll have a roll call vote on this.
Supervisor Pine?
Yes.
Supervisor Groom?
Yes.
Supervisor Slocum?
Yes.
Supervisor Tissier?
Aye.
President Horsley?
Aye. Okay.
If I could just amend a statement I made earlier, just for the record, the county is the legal condemner, but the Transportation Authority is the de facto condemner. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
So essentially, we have no liability in this, then? Right?
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Okay, thank you. So our next item, yes? A 5-minute break? We're going to take a short 5-minute break at this point. Okay, we'll resume. The next item is item number 7, resolution to approve the 5-year consolidated plan for the San Mateo County Home Consortium for fiscal year 2013-14 through 2017-18. Dwayne Bay?
The item before you this morning is our annual review and approval of the action plan. A public hearing is required. This year, special deal we're bundling this with two other items that have become timely. One of them is a HUD requirement, which is actually the annual plan is an annual update of a 5-year plan, although we don't present it that way typically. But so this is the 5th year. This is the year in which we do the 5-year summary consolidated plan, as well as the action plan for this year. Each action plan is where you allocate the community development block grant money, the home program money, and the emergency shelter, emergency solutions grant money to community nonprofits. The third item that's part of the public hearing is all of the work that we do, all of these processes, we are required to follow the processes that are set out in something called the Community Participation Plan. So you're familiar with the Housing Community Development Committee that you appoint that reviews these allocations each year. The process by which they conduct their business is part of the Community Participation Plan. The requirements of how long we notice and what methods we use to notice are part of that plan as well. So that plan had not been updated in over 10 years. There were what amount to some technical adjustments to it. So I will do a very short presentation, and then if you could hold the public hearing on this topic. I think you're well familiar with these programs. It's probably worth reminding of the overarching purposes of the programs, which are decent housing, suitable living environment, and expanded economic opportunities. HUD gives a great deal of local discretion to how those are implemented and to setting the priorities. The function in each year, there's a one-page summary of the funding priorities that guides the allocation process of the committee. The 5-year process is extraordinarily more elaborated, and it's about 150 pages, and that the one page that the allocation committee uses is essentially a representation, a guide, and a snapshot based on the 150 pages. So the consolidated plan calls out and justifies in a lot of detail the in a more refined way what we focus on and why. As is in the executive summary, the priorities are pretty much what you would expect given the nature of the funding. We tend to focus on areas of geographical need. We tend to focus on projects that are, of course, financially feasible, but in addition, politically feasible, meaning communities that welcome the projects that are being developed or the services that are being delivered. In addition, we put a premium on projects and locations where we can leverage local funds, because the federal money goes farther in that way. And then finally, you have tended to focus on people who bear the greatest burdens in their lives in terms of their circumstances, and as a subset of that, those for whom those burdens become public burdens and public costs. So I want to just take a moment to thank my staff in general and Marina, you in particular. This 150-page document is a great deal of work, and HUD has become increasingly helpful in helping us do our jobs. So this year, rather than working in MS Word or any of our familiar tool sets, Marina actually input almost all of the verbiage in this 150-page document, all on the tables, into a federal database, and it was a learning experience. And I'm sure it was a very good reason, multiple excellent reasons HUD had in mind: transparency, accountability, things like that. Nonetheless, it was an extraordinary amount of work. Also want to call out the formality of this is that for the home program, the city of South San Francisco is part of the consortium. Otherwise, the consortium, the urban counties as the county and the 16 cities that are too small demographically to have their own funding. So the con plan was, our partner was South San Francisco, City of South San Francisco in that. Moving for a moment to the community participation plan then, I said there were administrative updates. The two things probably that are worth calling out is basically we do our notices electronically now. Anybody's welcome to come down to the office and get a copy of the plan, but we tell everybody it's available by the web, and the plan from 10 years ago didn't call that out in a clean way. The second was that during the last year, you adjusted the signature authority levels for department levels. The amendment structure for what level of authority was required and therefore what hearing process was required still reflected the 25,000 versus 100,000 split and caused some administrative complications. So we cleaned those two things up. Going then to the heart of the matter and what is the usual process that you're well familiar with, this year's annual budget, we had about $4 million to allocate. The process went through the normal steps. Your HCD committee took public testimony, had a study session to develop a list of questions, took public testimony, and then made a set of recommendations, and those are included in the packet. And there were a couple members of the committee here, but I think they've left. I think I will stop there and answer any questions you may have.
Supervisor Tessier, is that a question?
Just a quick question. When you say the breakdown, what I see here is the total sources and the total uses. Do you have something broken down? None of my attachments show any additional. Is it broken down by nonprofit groups? And
do you have a spreadsheet that in previous years you've pointed out the print was extraordinarily small?
No. All of them says no files found. At least when I'm trying to look at what, I haven't seen anything that indicates on the attachments unless you can.
Yeah,
Right, and nothing with any.
We don't have
The
the
memos does not have a breakout of the allocation.
We do not have that, no.
Okay.
Should I hear
Allow me
some of my board members talking about continuing this, perhaps?
So, if I may consult with Marina for just a moment, we have some deadlines that we need to meet
Okay.
HUD deadlines.
Can we get copies of that? And maybe we can do is open the public hearing and take some comment first.
We'll go make copies
Okay,
during
she'll
the
make
next
copies.
5 minutes.
But in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the public hearing, and Marina can make copies, and I will. Okay, there's a number of speakers.
Okay.
So you can sit down for now, Mr. Bay.
Thank you.
And the first speaker is Jessica Avendano, followed by Raj Remda. Got it. Okay, thank you. Jessica?
Yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jessica Avendano. I'm with the 4 Cs of San Mateo County. And on behalf of our agency, I'd like to thank you for supporting our program. Over 60% of child care businesses in San Mateo County are family child care businesses. And your support will allow us to expand the economic opportunities for family child care businesses by equipping them with the necessary skills and tools to start and sustain a successful family child care business. Having an understanding of family child care business management is a key component in being able to offer a quality child care program. The majority of the beneficiaries of this program are low to extremely low income. And without the support, these family child care owners will not have an affordable place to become educated on the business management aspects of running a home daycare business. So again, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Jessica. And so Raj Ramdap, followed by Jennifer Witt.
I'm Raj Rambab, Executive Director at Home and Hope. I also want to convey our thanks and appreciation for your continued support. We now more than ever, the funding is critical. We're a small organization and we're financially vulnerable during this time, so every little bit helps, even with the reduction that's on the way. One of the things about our program is we partner with 33 congregations throughout San Mateo County. These congregations are intimately involved. We roll into a host congregation each evening about 5:30, 6 o'clock, and volunteers there have made a home-cooked meal for our guests. And one of the things they talk about is the meals as being a critical part of their success. And it's not just the food, it's volunteers and guests eating together, sharing stories, hearing encouragement. So our program is very unique. And one of the byproducts, I believe, of our program is with about 1,400 volunteers throughout the county involved, coming in contact with some of our most vulnerable, I think it raises the sensitivity of this community to those in need. And we're grateful to do this work, and we'll keep doing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Russ. Jennifer Witt, followed by Luis Vizcardo.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Jennifer Whitty, and I'm the Program Associate at Renaissance Entrepreneurship Center. So what we do is we transform lives through entrepreneurship. So we empower and increase the entrepreneurial capacities of socially and economically diverse men and women. And with your continued support, we've been able to really help the individuals in this community either start or grow their small businesses. 84% are low to moderate income, 72% are women, 68% are individuals of color, and 1 in 8 have disabilities. So 63% of our clients in 2012-2013 fiscal year, 63% either started or launched or grew their small businesses. And the one-on-one consulting that we provide had doubled by the fourth quarter. Our proposal for your continued support, which we are so grateful for, would include further increasing that one-on-one consulting, and also we would hope to be able to provide services in collaboration with Community Legal Services in East Palo Alto to additionally add a business law workshop to further deepen their knowledge and understanding of business ownership. The materials you received, which my colleague will discuss, are just 2 quick success stories of some of our clients. The first one is Michelle Jin. She has created purses. She started her business and her label called Zone 6 because of her enthusiasm of the California climate zone. And within the first year of her business, she now has 36 boutiques and stores around the Bay Area that are selling her purses. So with our help and your help, allowing us to give her our help, she's been able to be very successful in her first year. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Whitty. And Luis Vizcardo.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I know we don't have too much time, but the more important, like Jennifer said, we give you the brochure and 2 different histories, but the more important is we have a lot of history. But the point is, in this moment, this economic moment, the people want to start some business, but at the same time, they need tools, they need information. This is exactly what we provide, information, but the information is power. So, for example, in different communities, and in this moment, in African American and Latino community, we help a lot of help too. And in Latino community, something very good. For example, in the party area, when we have some party, we want to rent a table or tablecloth or chair. So between 6 or 7 different business, the same area, they make like alianza, the islands. So when some business or client coming to to asking for a cake or table. So they are a group. If something happens, you say, hey, Martha, we have some specific business. Are you coming here? So the people need a table. They have a table. The people need a food. They have a alliance. They have a food. So this is important. This moment, the people thinking and work together. And this kind of information, we offer this kind of information. This is important. And thank you very much, San Mateo County. You are give money and help and support. And we need to continue to support to the people in this San Mateo County.
Thank you, Luis.
Thank you very much.
I almost had you speaking on condemnation of property, so.
Okay, thank you. I have a business card with me.
Thank you. Melissa Lucan.
Good morning. Hi. I would just like to thank you for your consideration of a portion of the request here, which is for Cora to, in our new building, to continue our move into a space that allows us to provide services to clients by adding a desperately needed new roof and paving of our back lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Do we have any other speakers? One more. Laura Bent.
Thank you for the opportunity to thank you all, Board of Supervisors. My name is Laura Bent. I'm the Director of Programs and Services with Samaritan House. We appreciate very much the funding and continued support for our Safe Harbor Shelter, where we serve 90 individuals on a daily basis who are very challenging clients and have very challenging backgrounds. We again appreciate the support, and with continued funding, we can help support our clients to success. One such success is a client who is now serving in one of our downtown San Mateo restaurants, who has reconnected and established his relationship with his family and children. We are very excited for him and for his family, and again, we appreciate your support continuously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Do you have any questions now that we have the breakdown?
I do.
Mr. Bay?
I just want to make sure I understand this. So you've got the amount requested from a group, staff's recommendation, and then in the column, the NOFA funds available. So that's the actual amount that's actually available that could be utilized. In other words, take the first one. They were asking for 100,000.
Yes.
Staff's recommending 74, but we could in fact go to 100,000 because that's the amount of money available. Or is that a matching fund?
No, that is the committee's recommendation, and the NOFA funds available was pertaining to those large numbers at the totals at the top of the column. So the 641,000 would be available in that column, and then the 100,000 for El Concilio is the committee's recommendation for the allocation.
So the staff recommendation is different than the committee recommendation?
Yes,
Okay.
but just to clarify, this was to show the history of the process. This is what we took to the staff is supporting the committee recommendation. There's no discord between staff and committee on this. The staff goes through a point scoring and evaluation process. There were some questions, and basically once those questions were cleared up, the committee looked at it and went for the $100,000 recommendation.
Okay, so in one case, they lowered under women's recovery, but they actually gave more from the staff's recommendation to the committees. Then I had one other question down at the bottom. If you get to the housing development.
Yes.
Number 11, Mid-Peninsula, the farm, Mission Street Family Housing, is that different than the one that was just completed in Daly City on Mission Street?
There was a Habitat for Humanity at 7555 Mission, and this one has not started yet. They're
Okay,
still
so these
in
are all brand new?
Yeah, they're all brand new.
Okay, all right. And when you say, due to their premature status. Do you know what the status is of each of those as far as how far along they are in any particular process?
Yes, and it's different for each one of them. And so they're in the process of working with the local city on entitlements and with various funding sources on the funding. And so the Daly City one, I mean, I can answer questions.
Well, for instance, the Eden House, has it gotten the entitlements from Daly City yet, or the same with the number 11? Have either of those gotten the entitlements from Daly City?
No, in fact, neither of them have started through the entitlement process.
Okay.
And so in all three of these cases, Menlo Park and 2 in Daly City, we're going to follow the lead of the local city. We're not going to commit money to a project that doesn't have the full backing of the city, and so that's part of the timing issue here.
And then just one more question, going back to the front page, for minor home repairs. On the first one, it says minor home repairs in countywide, office located in Burlingame. What does that mean? Are the homes throughout the county that are being improved, but just the office of El Concilio is located in Burlingame?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and do you know where those repairs are throughout the county?
They're really sprinkled quite broadly. There are concentrations where the nonprofits operate, and some of them, for instance, the Coast Side will be Coast Side because every year they work their Coast Side seniors. Rebuilding Together will get some money, and they kind of move around geographical focus. We tend to have a lot of them in East Palo Alto, in North Fair Oaks, in North San Mateo, and there has been a bit of a transition in North County the last couple of years because North Peninsula Neighborhood Services was the go-to there. And while there was never any turf in terms of, and people applied to their local program, as that program became less able, gradually the other programs, El Concilio in particular, has just picked up more referrals and started to expand geographically there.
Any other questions? Supervisor Groom?
Thank you. Mr. Bay, in the staff report, there's a page with a chart on it. I don't know what page it is.
Yes,
but
I know that chart.
I'm curious on total uses of funds. The program management and administration is 19.6%. Is that kind of across the United States? Is that kind of a standard figure?
It tends to run extremely close to 20% because that's the maximum that HUD allows. So it's essentially our job to make sure that it doesn't go over 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Supervisor Tessier?
Now that I'm reading this, yet another chart. Question, I notice under the 2-year contract, you haven't given anything to North Peninsula Neighborhood Services Center. Is that because, I've had some information that there's been some concerns there because they don't have an executive director, but the board seems to think they're moving along. Is there some particular reason why we're not giving them anything?
In this instance, they didn't apply.
Oh, they didn't apply.
Yeah. And I imagine that is connected to the other things that you described.
Okay. Well, don't apply, you can't get it.
Supervisor Slocum?
On the chart that you just passed out, it says that the money will be placed in reserves and staff will review the progress in June 2013 to determine funding recommendations. What happens, does that money just continue on in reserves, or is there some sort of deadline in June, or does it, what happens if they're not ready in June, I guess is the question.
As a concrete matter, all these 3 projects we're in regular, probably weekly communication with. So in terms of just how it's going to work out, we will be able to keep this time frame so that for example, the project on the Vets campus in Menlo Park, there's a Menlo Park hearing on their request tonight at the Menlo Park City Council meeting. It's more, the work is more at the staff level in Daly City, but there are indications emerging about which project is more likely to move ahead. So that the things that were giving us pause, the committee pause 2 months ago, that information is going to be available. So I think we're going to have sort of we haven't set the meeting date yet, but we'll have our appointed committee meeting in June. The committee's already received the full packets and the full presentations and just didn't feel it was ripe for a decision. So I think we'll be able to keep this schedule.
Thank you.
Supervisor Groom?
Can I just, oh, I'm sorry.
Let me get Supervisor Groom first.
On the chart that you just handed us, I just noticed it says impact of HUD cuts on second year of 2-year contracts. Is that the infamous sequestration?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And would you like me to say a few words about the infamous sequestration?
Well, it's 20% is pretty significant when it's not a lot of money in the first place.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And there's a double whammy here that, boy, I worked really hard on a couple sentences in the report about this, but I'm not. It's how is it that a 5% cut on the top line in terms of what we get for HUD translates to a 20% cut in this category? And the reason basically is that each year, if you look at the the fourth page of what you have, it's called sources and uses. The reason it's illegible is because it was copied from something in color. But part of what you can still read there is the top 3 lines in the sources and uses. The top line is the new entitlement money that we get each year. The line right below that, which is a significant contributor to the budget, we call program income. And that's because the program's been running for decades and loans are put out. Gradually those loans get paid back, and so we're able to supplement. Last year, we had a lot of program income. And so we allocated 2-year contracts on that basis, with the caveat to all the recipients that if we don't continue to have that level of program income or we get cut from HUD, you know, your second year is not going to be as large as this year. And so it really is the fact that we had more money than usual last year in combination with the cut for this year. And then the public services category is capped. We can only use 15% of the total money for it. And so the category as a whole hit that ceiling. A silver lining on this, it is starting to look like it's more likely we will get a 4% cut than a 5% cut, but we won't know till August, and we needed to freeze this process already a month ago. So if that does happen, it may not be this 20% cut.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Tessier?
Just a quick question. I'm not sure I followed the answer to Supervisor Slocum's question. There's a hearing on the veterans one on number 9. If it doesn't get an approval and the other ones don't go through the actual approval process by these particular entities, are you saying by June of 2013 you still have to allocate no matter what, or the money goes away?
No. The commitments that we make are always conditional on them eventually getting. So usually the big additional commitments they usually need are to get federal tax credit funding, and they can't even apply for that until there's a high level of local funding. So this action here that we would bring you after June would be that indication of local support that would allow them to go get the federal tax credits. The other one is ultimately them getting the entitlements. They're not even starting through the Planning Commission, City Council entitlement process. So the item that's at Menlo Park tonight is whether Menlo Park will commit a piece of doesn't matter what their sources of funds are, but basically we'll commit a substantial amount of money to the project at the vets.
I guess I'm still not getting the answer. Do we have to commit by June of 2013 these dollars in order to keep the money? Or if we don't, you or your group doesn't commit those dollars by June of 2013, do we stand the chance to lose those dollars?
Not, we are under timely pressure to get the money out timely. The particular amounts of money in the CDBG fund in this category are not under that tight constraint. There are other monies that are in jeopardy if we don't commit them timely, but not in this particular category.
So we can do it later this year, next year, doesn't really matter.
Or it could be reprogrammed.
Yeah, in terms of what's driving this is if they're good projects that the county wants to support, it's to get them a local commitment in order to do the tax credit. So it's the timing related to that, not the timing related to how fast we move the money in this instance. Sometimes it's otherwise. But
and what if they don't get the tax credits? Can we still give them these dollars if we wanted to?
Yes, we can. And the challenge, so all of our contracts will be conditional in the sense that if you don't get your tax credits and the project doesn't go ahead, we don't commit our money past a certain point. There have been changes in the last 2 years that make the front end of the story more complicated. And that is that now we're having to make more of a distinction between pre-development money and money once they have all of their commitments lined up. And because at this point our pre-development money is more at risk than it was in the past. Meaning if we put money into a project for pre-development costs, the project doesn't go ahead. HUD can now and has in some instances required jurisdictions to give the money back. And that's not something we had to take into account previously.
So even though we could give the money without the federal tax credit, we don't because we condition it to make you do it. Otherwise, we don't give you the money. So the answer really is no, you really can't get it without the tax credit.
Yeah, that is the way we try to play it, yes.
Okay. Any other questions on this? If there are none, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move to approve the 5-year consolidated plan for the Home Consortium for fiscal year 2013 through 2017-18, the fiscal year 2013-14 annual action plan, and the citizens participation plan.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Item 8 will be at 1:30 this afternoon, presentation of service awards, and the next is on our regular agenda is item number 9, and it's the finding that local emergency exists regarding Ramona Road and authorizing the execution of a contract with Soil Engineering Construction for construction of improvements along Ramona Road. This item actually is something that comes out of my district. That it's we are seeking an emergency declaration for Ramona Road area in the Los Trancas Woods. It stems from some meetings that I've had with members of a group called SAR, which stands for Save Alpine and Ramona Road. This following really severe rains last year, a stretch of Ramona Road washed out, and it has justifiably made the residents there worried that it will completely fail in any future rainstorm. And this is the primary road, exit road for residents in this area. The initial repair concept was a simple rip-rap type rock revetment repair, but neighbors in the area really lobbied for a more comprehensive repair called a soldier pile wall. County had the county manager meet with myself as well as the residents, and we recommended that we hire Jean DeMuth, who's our acting county geologist, to take a look at the site, and her report concluded that the road would probably continue to fail without remediation. So that's after reviewing the geologist's report, we are seeking this emergency declaration so that we can move forward quickly in repairing this road in the best, most effective, long-term solution which has been identified as Soldier Pile Construction. Mr. Porter?
Thank you, President Horsley, members of the board, Mr. Holland, Mr. Maltby, and Mr. Byers. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think you just gave my
Thank you
staff
very much.
report. Just a little bit of background on the contractor that we are going to hire. We are recommending that we retain Soil Engineering Construction. You may be familiar with SEC. They were the company that performed the La Honda landslide repair for us. So we're familiar with their work and we're confident in their ability to get this job done. We are recommending that the board declare an emergency so that we can waive the bid process and immediately engage SEC so that we can get this completed this summer before the rainy season comes. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to open a public hearing on this item. Any questions? There are actually a couple of speakers, Ross Edwards, and then followed by Amanda Lee. Oh, sure, Amanda Lee then.
Hi, I'm Amanda Lee, and I am co-chair of the ad hoc committee, SAR, Save Alpine and Ramona Roads, and it's a ad hoc committee of the Vista Verde and Los Trancos Woods Community Associations. In December, you may be familiar with the history, and Supervisor Horsley just reiterated some of it, but in the heavy rains there, the Ramona Road slide was greatly exacerbated. Ramona Road in our communities is extremely important in that it's the main ingress egress, so for emergency use and fire safety, it's really our main road in and out of both Los Trancos Woods and Vista Verde, and so it's kind of like an Oakland Hills situation up there, so it can be pretty hairy. Also, all the water, all of the utilities runs under the road, so electric, water, gas, cable. And so if that went, it would be a big inconvenience, if not a big danger. So when the road was really compromised in the December rains, we became active in wanting to get a good, solid repair for the road. And want to give recognition and thanks to the ad hoc committee, and the steering committee in particular, which includes Ross Edwards, who was founder of WebCore, and Mario Whitman, who is with XL Construction, and then Ruth Thor Nelson and myself, community volunteers, and then a lot of other people, worked with Supervisor Horsley and Chief of Staff Chris Hunter, and a lot with Jim Porter and Joe Lococo, and my time's up. But want to thank the whole, and John Maltby, thank everybody very much for 5 months of great communication, working together to come to this point where we are today and getting Ramona fixed. So we are very thankful and appreciative, and thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Ross Edwards?
Yeah, I'm Ross Edwards. I live at 317 Ramona Road in Portola Valley, and I live about 1,000 feet south of this slide area. So I've been watching it for a number of years, and I just want to say that we're all going to be breathing much easier when we see the construction crews out there, and we know that we can get it completed before the rainy season. And I want to also say that we're going to save the county a lot of money by this process of design build. I think will be not only save time, but this will save the county quite a bit of money. So I want to thank Supervisor Horsley and the other supervisors here for supporting this, and especially John Maltby was very instrumental, and as well as Jim Porter and Joe Lococo. And we really do value the collaboration that we've had, and urge you to pass this. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. Okay, I'm gonna move to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'm gonna make a motion then to find that the local emergency exists with regard to Ramona Road and authorize the execution of a contract with Soil Engineering Construction for construction of improvements along Ramona Road.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes. Thank you very much. It's done. Yeah. Next item is item number 10, County Manager's Report, Measure A, report backs. Mr. Maltby.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have 3 report backs today. The first one involves the core service agencies. We're recommending the tentative approval of $325,000 for the core service agencies for software development of a coordinated system. It would be $300,000 in fiscal year 14, $25,000 in fiscal year 15. We do believe that as a condition of this tentative recommendation, that the core agencies need to prepare a plan for the selection and implementation process for the coordinated computer system, as well as the project for ongoing costs associated with the support, training, and maintenance of the computer system. And it should also take into consideration the ability to scale this for other nonprofits. This is part of the ongoing commitment that we're making to the board in terms of performance metrics, that we need to get everybody on the same page. The nonprofit community has not had the funding to do this. We think this is a unique opportunity with this funding to get them on the same page with the county, so that going forward, once the system is up and running, we could have really good communication in terms of performance measurement and also in terms of managing clients. So we think this is a vital improvement to the service of our mutual clients. The second report involves affordable housing. We believe that the board really already dealt with this a few weeks ago when they approved the commitment of $13.4 million in low to moderate funds that were coming back from the redevelopment agencies. We believe we need to allocate these funds in accordance with the board policy to see where we are with that before we consider an additional award of funding from Measure A. The third report involves homelessness. We are recommending $1.5 million in fiscal years 14 and 15. That would be $700,000. I'm sorry, it would be, yes, it would be $700,000 in 14 and $500,000 in 15 for the operation of a homeless shelter throughout the year in East Palo Alto, and to expand homeless outreach teams from the existing South County team to the North County and the coast side. We think this team has demonstrated its worth in terms of being able to locate and assist people in need of rapid shelter, and we believe this is a good model to expand going forward in the future. And we are recommending approximately $150,000 each year in funding for the outreach teams. If there are any questions, Mr. President, members of the board, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions? Mr. Supervisor Pine?
Mr. Morgan, on your first memo, you mentioned that in connection with the new $1 million funds that are being put forward by the foundation and the county, that all of our core service agencies have applied except for one. Which one is that?
I'm not sure, maybe, is it, yes.
Deborah Torres?
Daly City family.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And could you explain a little bit more about the software, the coordinated case management? I'm having a hard time kind of just forming a picture of that in my mind about what do we gain from that we don't currently have?
I would invite certainly Deborah if she has additional information, but clearly it enhances the communication between the county and its core service agencies, both in terms of client flow, and these clients are in both systems all the time, and in terms of meeting performance requirements that the county is putting into these contracts so that they have the tools in place to give us the information to know what they're doing. And I would ask Deborah to elaborate on that if there's anything else.
Yeah, I think to highlight, the 8 core service agencies work with different departments in the county. Human Services Agency, Department of Housing, they serve thousands of clients. We're asking them to report back in terms of statistics and numbers, and they have various computer systems and databases now and various degrees of updated technology. So part of this is, for many years, we've been trying to kind of coordinate and get a systemic, working relationship between the 8 core agencies and a shared database to some degree, so we could at any point in time pull information and provide it for the various reports that are required.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Are these Deborah, are these off-the-shelf programs, or they're not going to be tailored, I hope?
Right, we're not too sure because, again, we'd have to work with the IT folks, and again, the cores themselves have different IT systems, so it would be one that hopefully would be, building on what we currently have.
Because when they're off the shelf is one thing, but when they end up being tailored, the costs seem to rise.
Yeah, the goal would be, so we just put a figure in that we thought was a working figure. It could be less, and again, working with the cores who really know their data systems, and they would help us with that.
Thank you. Any questions?
Don't go away.
Supervisor Tessier?
Just a quick question. Could you name off the 7 core agencies that have applied?
For the
$1 million.
Oh, for the 1 million, yes. So it's let's see, City of Redwood City, so it's Fair Oaks, it's Coastside Hope, it's El Concilio in East Palo Alto, it is North Peninsula Neighborhood Services Center in South San Francisco, Samaritan House, Tide Center, Pacifica Resource Center, and Puente de la Costa Sur in Pescadero.
Okay. So Shelter Network hasn't applied?
They're not a core
They're not
service
considered
agency.
core.
Yeah, they may have applied, but they're not a core.
Okay, and then when you said Daly City did not apply, what group in Daly City? Is this
It's
the
a Daly City Community Services Center through the city of Daly City. They didn't apply this year.
Okay, thank you. Don, did you want us to, I mean, I have some questions on some of the other ones too.
Yeah, maybe we should take them one at a time, huh?
You want to do one at a time? That's fine.
Oh, there we go.
I mean, I just had,
I have a whole bunch of speakers. Should we take the speakers first and then have questions after, or?
Sure, that's fine.
Because they're all mixed up in
Sure,
terms
that's fine.
of different. So the first one is Marty Fox, followed by Melissa Lukens.
Thank you, President Horsley, members of the board, for your service to the county. I'm speaking to the homelessness memorandum, and I ask you to take a look at the top of page 4 at the performance measures that are identified. Successful transition to permanent housing solutions, successful engagement to case management. This indicates leadership on the part of the Human Services Agency. They are committed to successful outcomes, and we should encourage that. There is no mention of satisfaction surveys like those which routinely appear in health systems policies and procedures for the failed programs like the Family Services Agency PrEP program or the FAST program. Please congratulate the Human Service Agency once again for providing an example of true leadership by seeking responsibility for positive outcomes. Please change the other procurement policies and procedures to follow Human Service Agency's example. Assuming responsibility for positive outcomes should be encouraged. Avoiding responsibility is a dereliction of duty and should be discouraged. People who wear smelly clothing and forage through garbage cans looking for food while talking to their hallucinations need treatment to recover from untreated bipolar disorder or schizophrenia that turns them into homeless people, not just housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Melissa Lukens, followed by Kate Comfort Har.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Lucan. I'm the Executive Director at CORA and the Vice Chair of the Domestic Violence Council. I'd like to put before you two proposals for Measure A funds, both of which contribute significantly to the county's 2020 vision for the reduction of domestic violence victimization. The first is funding for a portion of the costs associated with CORA's emergency response program, which, as you know, is a lifeline for victims of domestic violence through the county's law enforcement agencies. It would also support outreach and education on domestic violence for teens and adults throughout the county. Our calls are up to $3,500 a year from law enforcement, and it's a highly leveraged and extremely cost-effective program, but we have to do a better job of meeting the demand without taxing local law enforcement agencies. The proposal would essentially supplant the city's portion of funding, which they've provided over the past several years as a match to the county, and it would also include the county's portion to be sourced from Measure A funds that you've so generously provided, so that we can continue to provide the quality and depth of service that the sheriff and the law enforcement agencies have come to expect from us. In addition, CORA has relied very heavily on volunteers over the past several years for our outreach and education throughout the county. We get 12 to 15 requests a week for presentations. We have a half-time position to service those needs. The community deserves greater access to our expertise of the complex causes of dynamics of domestic violence, teen dating violence, and the services available to them. The last proposal is on behalf of the Domestic Violence Council to enhance victim safety and better accountability. As a couple of you are well familiar, it would support the coordinated community response project that was begun last fall with funding that was independently sourced and continued through a recent training that had about 150 participants from across the county, indicating a tremendous need. The next critical step would be creating a victim-centered response to domestic violence by implementing a countywide assessment to that response, identifying gaps in the system, metrics to attach to it, and making recommendations to implement priority funding sources. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate your time.
Kate Comfort Hart, followed by Joshua Hugg.
Hi, thank you. I'm back again. So I wanted to thank the Board of Supervisors for including affordable housing solutions in the priorities for the use of Measure A funds and encourage you to keep that priority relevant. The county has always been a strong supporter of our housing programs, which do exactly that. They create affordable housing solutions. And we provide housing through two of our programs for over 1,000 people that would otherwise be homeless and are at risk of homelessness. Programs like ours are a very cost-effective way to keep people out of shelters. And while building new shelters is so important to keeping people, safe and healthy and back on their feet, giving people someplace to go after they leave a shelter or keeping them from getting into a shelter in the first place is also critically important. And that's a program function, not a development and function. So I look forward to working together with you and with other local agencies to provide the programs that will keep people out of shelters, to keep people from becoming homeless, and to also be a very cost-effective tool for managing the homeless situation that we have in our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Joshua Hugg, followed by Terry Chin.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I'm here to thank the board for their the leadership that they exhibited a few weeks ago in approving the $13.4 million to be reallocated back into affordable housing and homeless programs. We feel that that kind of commitment really sets an example not only for the cities and the county, but for the entire Bay Area and actually the entire state. We've actually received phone calls from several counties around the Bay Area asking about what happened here and how can they duplicate that kind of generosity. We do want to also emphasize that the need is still tremendous despite the one-time allocations. The home prices are continuing to skyrocket, which also are precluding many people from, they'll work in San Mateo County, but they are not able to live here. And that has larger regional implications. We understand that the housing market in the East Bay is continuing to rise as a result of the in-commutes that are occurring in our county. To put this also in a larger context, if you're familiar with SB 375 and the Sustainable Community Strategy, There is a commitment to reduce greenhouse gas reductions, but also embrace a pattern of development of which San Mateo County has fully embraced with things like the Grand Boulevard Initiative and the downtown plans. These are called priority development areas. Currently, because inclusionary housing ordinances have been shut down, there are no mechanisms to bring additional affordable housing into the counties, into these high opportunity areas. So we look forward to working with the county on identifying permanent funding solutions that can be used to activate these high opportunity areas.
Thank you, Josh. Terry Chin from the City of Redwood City and Fair Oaks Community Center, and followed by Pastor Paul Baines.
Good morning, President Horsley, members of the board. Nice to see you all. First of all, I just want to thank you all for your ongoing commitment to support safety net services provided through the Core Service Agency Network. And also for your partnership with the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. I think a very unique thing, that government-private partnership that you've done 3 times, and of course we're currently in that process right now, as the memo refers to, of the $1 million available for 13-14 for additional funding for safety net services. I wanted to speak this morning in support of the county manager's recommendations for Measure A funding related to the 3 topics that are on the agenda today. And I just wanted to say that in terms of the need, it still is great out in our community. Economy is getting a bit better, but we still are seeing people coming through the doors needing the housing assistance, needing the utility assistance, needing the food, looking for shelter. And Fair Oaks is still probably one of the primary hubs, if not the hub, of where people come when they're homeless, especially single homeless adults. And so we're very pleased about the possibility of expanding our shelter network in our county and having, we hope, become a full year-round shelter. We had people this past season who went to We Hope, came to Fair Oaks first. We referred them to We Hope, and they were thrilled to find out that We Hope was extended through June. We thought that it was going to close down actually in the end of March. And so that was really a big deal for them, and then for them to even know that there might be the possibility of expanding longer would be really great. We see about an average of 2 homeless families a week come just to Fair Oaks, and we're just one of the 8 core agencies, so that just gives you a little idea about homelessness for families in our community. And at our recent, I'm also a member of the board for our Community Action Agency for San Mateo County. We had a focus group to talk about a needs assessment in our community, and unanimously, affordable housing was the major topic for everybody there. One of the women talked about she had just got a letter that day from her landlord telling them that they were raising the rent $150, which was an 8% increase for them, and she wasn't quite sure how they were going to manage, but that was, just sort of the theme of the night. So just to say thank you again, and just really, that need is there, and we see it every single day at our different agencies.
Thanks, Terry. Pastor Paul Baines, followed by Anita Rees. Walk a little slow today because of that back.
Yes, President Horsley, actually, as working on our shelter, I fell through the ceiling and landed on my back about a week and a half ago. Ironically, trying to make it safe for everyone else. Yeah. But thank you for this opportunity, President Horsley and Board of Supervisors and John Multi. And thank you for your very heartfelt concerns through the work of your various departments in the county, HSA specifically, and the housing department, who have come along and worked with many different nonprofits. Thank you for your leadership on not passing by the issue of homelessness specifically. This work is very hard, communicated from the various cores and other shelters, but it's also very rewarding. When a police officer can call you and say, hey, I have this family that needs some help, and you're able to help them, not with just a handout, but a hand up, and then they get into the system and they call you back 3-4 months later, says, hey, we got a home, our board chair is here, our case managers are here, because they believe in what you're doing by partnering with us, and they believe in what they're doing by helping others. I just want to strongly encourage you all to really consider the recommendations. We all need the help, in the homelessness, and it's nothing new to you all, but I just like it when people don't bypass the issue. They put it up front, and that's what you all have done. And so I came out my bed, off my meds, to say that to you all.
Thank you very much. Anita Reese from the great city of Pacifica.
Yeah. Hello, Anita Reese with the Pacifica Resource Center. And I want to thank you for considering the homeless proposals presented today, in particular, the expansion of the homeless outreach team. In Pacifica, we've seen a significant increase in the number of homeless, both during the one-day homeless count and in our office. Specifically in 2009, we had 16 homeless folks. 2 years later, in 2011, there were 95. And just this year, it climbed to 150. This is an over 900% increase in 4 years. For our homeless who want shelter, it can take several months to get a bed, for 2 to 6 months. For our homeless that shelter is not an option due to criminal history, their mental or physical health issues, or lack of job skills, the homeless outreach team will be key. If funded, we look forward to working with Envision Shelter Network and their homeless outreach team to help our homeless address the issues that make it difficult for them to get housed and stay housed. I also encourage you to continue to find creative ways to decrease the number of homeless and prevent homelessness in general, and hope that in the near future we can consider a shelter on the coast. I also wanted to address one of the issues that you brought up around the database system. And as a relatively new core agency director, in my first year, it became first few months, it became really clear that we desperately needed an update to our database system. It was created over 10 years ago, and it was created really to count how many things we were doing. It wasn't really directed or created around outcomes. And we want to be able to provide those outcomes to you. We want to be able to tell the story of the cores and tell the story of our impact on our communities better than we've been able to so far. So I really do hope that we're able to get those funds, and we'll be able to expand and create a program that's going to work for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Questions? Supervisor Tessier.
A couple, and it was just touched upon, this idea of, providing dollars for being able to come up with data that we can then evaluate. I guess the question I would ask is how soon will we get the data system up, and how frequently will we be getting reports back so we can just see the progress of the different groups that are utilizing these funds? That would be my first question, and maybe John.
To the latter part of the question, once the system's up, I'm sure we could commit to at least quarterly reports back to the board. Again, because we're working with 8 separate core agencies, I don't have a precise answer to the first one, other than to say that we will give you regular updates. And I'm sure John Walton is listening, and he doesn't know this, so he's probably going to kill me in about 10 seconds. But I'm going to also provide access to our Information Services Department to assist the core agencies in getting their systems up and running. And John, you could see me later. I'll take you out to lunch.
I guess my next question, I think what's coming before us, I think, is appropriate, considering that we're trying to do the most we can with some of these dollars to the most vulnerable people that we serve. The issues that have come up around CORE's Domestic Violence Emergency Response Team, the SMART team, all these different things you've got, I assume there will come a time where we will be addressing those areas as well, separate from these areas that we talked about today?
Well, they haven't been built back into the system. You have received a letter from the police chief. So, the one thing the board made real clear in terms of its priorities, wanted to leverage these funds. And in that particular case, what we've seen is deleveraging these funds, where basically, and this has been going on for a while, that the cities are saying, no, we're not able to do that or interested in doing that, or for whatever reason they're not doing that, which means the county's the sole funder. And I don't think that's the right position to be in, and I don't think the board thinks that's the right position to be in. The other thing I would say to the board, and I'm sort of the guy standing in the doorway now, is with the projects and with the programs that have already been identified for Measure A funds by the board, you've got literally tens of millions of dollars more than Measure A represents. So we've got to start making some hard decisions, and you've got some really big ticket items that we're going to be bringing back in the next 2 months.
You actually hit on, I wrote a note at the top, that this idea that the cities are no longer funding or dwindling down. I do think, that's why I say I'd like us at some point to at least address some of the issues like this that come before us, and whether or not, like even the SMART team, you know, we are looking at gaps in services for mental health. Perhaps that's an area where something like that can take place if we see that there is a gap, and we'd like to do more of that. This issue of the cities, you know, sort of paring back because they see us having more money, you know, I agree. We talked about that from the get-go. Leveraging is going to be critical for all these things we provide, and I think so far we've done a great job of trying to leverage those, and I don't want us to lose sight of that, because once you do that for one, you end up doing it for all.
And the other things that I thought about when we haven't received the SMART team proposal, that's coming back to you at a later meeting, but as I read the HOT team proposal, you know, we've got these teams out there. We've got a lot of teams out there, and I wonder how many of them can be combined. I mean, in terms of the HOT team proposal and the SMART team proposal, you're dealing in many respects with the same population. And I don't know how many different disciplines we need to go out and interact with these folks, but there ought to be a way to be as efficient as possible when we have these teams out in the field. That'll be part of what we look at too in terms of our process.
May I add something to Supervisor Tissier's comment on the cores? When Supervisor Horsley and I and Mary McMillan were working with the not-for-profits to see how we could make them stronger, one of the things that they said to us repeatedly is they need systems that talk. So when a client of theirs comes in, they know whether they're in the health department, whether they're in the human services need, how quickly can they get eligibility for services. So I think this will actually make everyone more efficient, and I hope reduce some of the services that we provide because if someone else is already providing them.
Just make a comment on the SMART teams. I was part of the group that actually started it. I think, well, I agree that there might be some crossover between the HOT teams, but there might not be as well, because a lot of times these are, they may well be in a residence, they may have housing, and they do call the police, and the police have a couple choices. They can either 5150 them, they can arrest them, both of them which are very costly to the county. And the idea of the SMART team was, instead of having them go off to either the jail or a psych ward, it was to be able to get someone who knew how to de-escalate and get them into services. So I do agree that we should look at the HOT teams and the SMART team, but I want to caution us that they're not the same thing.
Right. There's overlap, but I agree that they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
Done.
I would, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Supervisor
I
Pine?
had a couple questions or points. In your memo, Mr. Malpe, you recommend to us that as a condition of the award for the software for the core agencies, that they bring back their plan to us, which I do think is important. So I suspect that we would all want to see that. It sounds like it's really not. It's really just a conceptual.
At this point, and I think perhaps our Information Services Department can be very helpful in that regard, working with them.
And just echo Supervisor Horsley, you know, we should just try to keep this simple as we can and implement it as fast as we can. There's a need there, but we don't have to spend a year or two, I don't think, getting this up and going.
No.
Another thing that jumped out at me in the memo on homelessness, we on the operating funds for the East Palo Alto shelter, you're pointing out that they'll need some funding starting in June.
That's correct.
Right, which I'm fine with. Do you suspect there'll be other items that will have this requirement?
We will flag those. In the budget process, apart from Measure A, there's been several items that we will be flagging and identifying in your June budget hearing, where you tentatively adopt the budget to allow us spending authority. We will call out some specific items that need to go as of July 1st, and those will be identified. This will be one of them.
Okay. Yeah, there may be a little park money in there. I'm not sure.
There might be
how
some.
exactly left that,
right.
But we were trying to expedite the hiring. And then my last point, just a suggestion for the tracking matrix in the end of the memo, where we're trying to keep tabs of where we're going with our Measure A funds. I think it'd be helpful if we broke out like kind of capital and one-time expenditures versus like operating monies. Like for example, when you look at, of course, since this is only our second meeting, most of this money is to the parks, but we didn't really add that much to the operating budget. We added a lot to the capital budget.
That's correct. What is missing here, and I picked it up too late, unfortunately, is sort of a running total. And we by doing it over 2 years, we've you could see, if you see the running total, that in the second year there's going to be less because we put, like you suggested, capital money in the first year, and then all of a sudden there's less money in the second year. But we could also call it out specifically.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful because when we make an operating appropriation, there's a decent probability that we're going to have to continue that for the foreseeable future.
Right, and that's why you'll see it. Probably the second fiscal year is the key year because that's really truly the operating year.
And then it would follow, of course, in the second year, our Measure A balance would go up because the capital expenses would have been taken care of in the prior year.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct. So it really is a running process over the 10 years.
If you could break that out.
Yeah, we will do that.
Any other questions?
I was just going to make
Grubb?
one more comment on the hot versus the smart. I wasn't going to, and then I decided I would. When I was on the city council in San Mateo, we had, I think, the first hot team dealing with homelessness, where social services and human services and the police department were working along with the business community because there was a homeless problem in downtown. And out of that resulted in the buying and the renovating of the Vendome Hotel, which now keeps 16 men and women in permanent housing with food, with shelter, with case management from Shelter Network. And so while I think that hot team has helped in Redwood City and it's helped in South San Francisco to get them going and figure out a system on how to work with your community. So while I think that we should not discount the fact that we still need groups working together and that cities can learn from other cities.
Just parenthetically, I might add the Vendome was also purchased with redevelopment funding.
Oh, absolutely it was, and renovated with redevelopment funding, and now there is an ongoing funding need.
Yes.
Which Shelter Network and some others are working on, but it's tough to find that money.
Supervisor Slocum?
Thank you. Deborah, I wasn't quite clear on the answer to the computer system. Are there off-the-shelf systems that do what we're trying to do that you might know about or not?
So I looked toward the cores and they said yes, and then I know the county is working on one that we're going to be using around AB 109, the reentry social solutions, efforts to outcomes. So that's something that has been mentioned. But the cores, I know we would need to quickly work with the cores, see because they've all got different, I'm looking at them there because they've got different databases, but looking at what they've got and if we can build on that or potentially bringing in ISD to take a look at the other one as well,
There
too.
are a number of off-the-shelf products that are available for this. The real question will be, with 8 different users, are we going to be able to get something with minor modification that's going to be able to work for everybody? And that's the unknown. We think we can.
I just hope we don't have to start talking about middleware.
No, this is not CGIS or nothing that complicated, I can assure you.
Thank you very much. Supervisor, one more?
Yeah, if I could. Do you mind?
You could.
Do you mind?
No. Go ahead.
On the East Palo Alto shelter, it's on page 2. In the first paragraph there, it says, fortunately this year additional funding has been secured to keep the East Palo Alto shelter open through June. And then I guess the new funding kicks in after that, and the following year it'll be open all year long.
Well, actually, I think it's intended to be open all year long this year.
As of if I can just
Yes.
interject, as of this year, it was inclement weather, so it was funding through November 15th through April 15th. Human Services Agency stepped in and allocated some funding to keep it going through June 30th. So right now it's an operation through June 30th, 40 beds a night. But there is no funding post June 30th until November 15 of the end of the year when inclement weather would pick up again. So there will be a gap if there's no, at this
Although
point in
if
time.
this funding is available and approved in June, as I understand it, the shelter will remain open all throughout the year. That's, yeah. Okay.
They're prepared to continue operation.
Okay.
Right.
And we could keep the pastor off the roof, too.
Thank you. Just one last comment, I'm sorry. I just wanted to compliment the county manager on sticking to this report back plan and the memos. I'm just impressed, even though it was just a couple weeks, but we are sticking to the plan and the report backs, and I think that's a good thing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I will move to accept these reports by our county manager.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Okay, we will now adjourn to closed session.
Nope. board member
Oh, I'm sorry, board members' reports. Supervisor Slocum?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to mention and compliment Supervisor Carol Groom on her Take a Hike program. I know she was very busy this weekend throughout the county, but I actually went on the hike at Quarry Park over on the coast, and I just have to tell you that that the rangers just doing an amazing job when you go on these hikes, and you learn about these parks, and you learn things that you would never otherwise have known, and just the organization and the logistics with the t-shirts and the water and all the support and the library people and the host of folks that go there. It's just an amazing event, and I would encourage us all to try to get to one or more of these. It's really quite a good event, and you get a little exercise and you get out and you learn a little something, and I'm just very impressed with that whole program. Just wanted to say thank you.
You're very kind, but that belongs to all of us, and it really, and we could not do it obviously without without our Park and Rec department, and Carla especially, and the Rangers. But it was fun, and we tied that in. We tied the visit to Quarry Park in with Streets Alive, Parks Alive, and so it was a double whammy, and it was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Supervisor Tessier?
Yes, I have an adjourn in memory of Dr. Leo Vanderijs. He passed away on May 1st. He was born in Groningen, the Netherlands, and moved to the United States to attend medical school at the University of Chicago. After graduating in 1954, he completed his postgraduate training in internal medicine and gastroenterology at the University of California in San Francisco. He had his private medical practice and worked at Seton Medical Center until his retirement. He was a visiting professor at a number of universities and spent many years serving as the medical director in the United States for KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. His efforts to further scientific ties between the Netherlands and the United States, the Queen of the Netherlands made him an officer of the Knight Order of Orange-Nassau. Leo traveled extensively throughout the world. He enjoyed reading and writing and was an advocate for healthcare reform, and also cherished spending time with his friends and family. His wisdom, generosity, friendship, care, and love will be missed by many. Leo is survived by his wife of 48 years, Margaret, his son, William, and his daughter-in-law, Judith, his grandchildren, Lucy and Jack, his daughter, Melinda, his son-in-law, Rick, and his sister, Lenora, and he will be sorely missed.
Supervisor Groom?
Thank you, President Horsley. I want to ask us to adjourn in memory of Russ Harder, who was the former Foster City mayor. He served as Foster City Council 1995 to 2003 and was the city's mayor twice. And I want to make a quote from Pam Frisella, who commented that Russ set the bar for all those that followed with his compassion and love for Foster City. He took such great pride in being a council member and a mayor.
Thank you. Supervisor Pine?
No report.
Okay, I have a couple things, actually a number of things. First of all, on San Mateo County Parks Foundation, it's the Park Foundation has a Shop Whole Foods in San Mateo on Friday, May 17th, and 5% of the sales will be donated to our Parks Foundation. So I'm going to pass those out to each of you. The other is that I just want to say that on Wednesday, the Coastal Commission Agricultural Workshop will be held, and our own Supervisor Groom is part of the Coastal Commission, as we all know. It's on Wednesday from May 8th, 8:30 a.m. till noon. It'll be in the Board of Supervisors chambers in Marin Civic Center. I will give some brief testimony about agriculture on the South Coast. We also recently put out an RFP for our agricultural ombudsman services. It's released last Friday. It's due on May 31st. It's available on the Agricultural Commissioner's website. The other thing I just report is that I recently returned from a trip to Israel. It was sponsored by the Jewish Community Relations Council. Spent about 5 days in Jerusalem. It is really a very holy city, and you cannot help but be touched by it. But it was really to try and understand between the issues in the Middle East, which in fact affect our country. What I found is that people were all very sympathetic to a two-state solution, yet they would continually talk about it being very complicated. We also went into Ramallah and talked to people in the Palestinian Authority. I'm actually kind of hopeful that they will be able to find a peaceful solution to the problems in the Middle East. I have to say we also were there on the Golan Heights and went from the border from Lebanon, the Gaza Strip, Syria, and Jordan. And Israel, those people and the Israelis are extremely resilient. It also is a population, about 73% are Israeli Jews, and about 20-some-odd% are Arabs, and it's clearly Arabs have the Arab population, the Druze population, the Christian population have all the same rights as an Israeli citizen. So it's a remarkable young country, very resilient, very impressed. And that concludes my report. We'll now go into closed session. Oh, I'm sorry. There's one speaker split. I just see Martin Fox.
Thank you. I propose only one brief adjourned in memory for the 27 San Mateo County peace officers who died in the line of duty and who were remembered at Old Courthouse Square last Wednesday. And they were included with those that the governor remembered in Sacramento yesterday. Specifically, he mentioned California Highway Patrol Officer Kenyon Youngstrom. He died in the line of duty after encountering somebody living with mental illness.
We'll now go to closed session. We are ready whenever you are. We are now returned from closed session. Mr. Byers, would you report on the closed session results?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. The board met in closed session to consider both of the items listed on the agenda. The board only took one action, and the action was unanimous vote to approve the settlement of the workers' compensation claim of John Minahan for $100,000.
Thank you. The board will now adjourn.